What if the first hour of your day isn't just routine, but the beginning of everything that matters? You say you don't have time, but is that true? Or are you losing it the moment you open your eyes? You tell yourself, I'm busy, I'm under pressure, I don't have time to take care of myself. But in doing so, you're abandoning the one moment of the day that you still fully control, the morning. You don't lose clarity all at once. You lose it in the unnoticed chaos of a morning that slips away without structure. Before your feet even hit the ground, your mind is racing, your hands are scrolling, and your life, once again, is no longer yours. That's not time management. That's the time to surrender. But this ends today. This isn't about waking up earlier, it's about waking up on purpose. When you stop reacting and start designing your morning, you don't just change how your day flows, you change how your life moves forward. In this video, we're going to walk through 8 Stoic strategies that will anchor your mind, sharpen your clarity, and reclaim your morning momentum. If you've ever felt stuck, scattered, or out of rhythm with yourself, watch this till the end. I promise that weight you've been dragging since sunrise, it won't follow you tomorrow. So stay here. Like this video, hit the bell, and subscribe. Your morning is waiting to meet a better version of you. Let's begin. 1. Your morning mood becomes your daily momentum. There's a moment, right after your eyes open, when the day hasn't yet claimed you. Before the notifications, the deadlines, the noise. In that sliver of time, something powerful happens. You choose. Not what will happen to you, but how you will meet it. And that choice, however subtle, becomes the momentum that carries everything after. Your morning mood is not just a feeling, it's a command, a signal to your nervous system, your focus, and your decisions. And once it's set, it leads. Like a current beneath your feet, it pushes you forward or off course. The reason this matters so deeply is because most people don't realize they're not just waking up, they're setting a tone, casting a shadow over the entire day without knowing it. You think it's just grogginess, just not a morning person. But it's not. It's a lack of awareness. Because that first emotion you feel, stress, rush, dread, it lingers, it builds. It influences how you talk to your partner, how you show up to work, how you face decisions, and how you treat your own self-worth. The first 5 minutes can trigger a 5-hour spiral. That's not an exaggeration. That's psychology. When I used to wake up, my habit was to reach for the phone before even sitting up. I told myself I was just checking the time. But we both know it never stops there. The moment I saw a client email, a news headline, or someone else's success on social media, it was over. My thoughts scattered. My peace was stolen. I didn't choose calm. I chose chaos without knowing. And the day that followed, I was constantly behind, rushing, reacting, trying to keep up with a world I had never led. Then one day, something simple changed everything. I left the phone outside the bedroom. I woke up to silence instead of screens. I sat on the edge of the bed, closed my eyes, and asked one quiet question. What energy do I want to bring in today? Not what I had to do, not who I had to impress, but what state do I want to embody? And from that place, still, clear, grounded, I moved. They have the same tasks and same schedule, but different from me. The mood was mine, not inherited. That's the essence of Stoic philosophy applied to your morning. Control what is within you, not what is outside. You don't control traffic, or your boss, or the weather, but you control your mindset, your breathing, your internal temperature before the world heats up. Marcus Aurelius started each day by reminding himself that the world would test him. Not to avoid difficulty, but to meet it with readiness. That readiness doesn't come from motivation. It comes from the mood, the right mood, the one you build, not the one you borrow. And yes, building that mood is a discipline. It requires you to delay gratification, to pause before engaging, to stop feeding your brain dopamine hits in the first 10 seconds of waking up. You need to make space, to breathe, to stretch, to speak kindly to yourself. That might mean journaling 3 lines, drinking water slowly, standing barefoot for 1 minute in stillness. These aren't hacks, they're anchors, because your mind, like a ship, drifts without them. You might say, I don't have time for that. But here's the reality. If you don't have time to own your first 5 minutes, you'll spend the next 15 hours cleaning up their mess. A chaotic morning is not just inefficient, it's dangerous. It trains your nervous system to expect urgency. It weakens your patience. It turns everything into a crisis. And no, that's not life being hard. That's your inner climate, creating a storm that didn't need to happen. Now think about the opposite. You wake, your eyes open, and you stay still. You feel your breath. You acknowledge you're alive. You bring to mind 3 things you're grateful for, not as a performance, but as a reset. You say to yourself, today I carry strength, I bring focus, I lead from within. You stretch, you hydrate, you stand tall before the mirror, not for vanity, but to reclaim your presence. No screen yet, no intrusion, just intention. And from that calm, you walk into the same world, but with different armor. Not reactive, rooted. That kind of morning doesn't require perfection. It requires practice and a belief that your mood matters, because it does. It colors every interaction, every task, and every challenge. The mood you wake with becomes the lens through which you experience your entire life. You cannot afford to let it be random, and if today you woke up heavy, scattered, or angry, pause. That doesn't have to be the momentum you carry. You can interrupt it right now. One breath, one choice. Because in the end, the most powerful people you know don't control more things, they control more mornings. So the next time your eyes open, don't just wake up, rise. Not into the noise, but into clarity, into stillness, into direction. Once you set the tone, the day begins to follow, not the other way around. 2. Decide who you want to be before the world tells you. Before the world wakes up and starts demanding who you should be, you have one sacred chance to decide for yourself. That moment, quiet and unnoticed, just after your eyes open, holds more power than any meeting, headline, or algorithm you'll encounter today. Because if you don't define who you are, the world will. And it rarely chooses wisely. It rewards urgency, distraction, and conformity. It labels you before you speak, pulls you into roles you never agreed to, and measures your worth by numbers that don't know your name. That's why the first few minutes of your morning are not about what to do. They are about who to be. The identity you carry into your day shapes everything. Not your job title, not your bank balance, and not your follower count. Your character, your internal compass, that quiet conviction you walk with when no one is watching. Stoic philosophy teaches that the only true possession you have is your reasoned choice. Your ability to decide what kind of person you will be, regardless of what happens around you. That decision is not made in a crisis. It's made in routine. And nothing is more routine than the way you wake up. If you rise already feeling behind, already reacting, you begin as a servant to the day, not the master of it. You let the inbox define your priorities. You let your reflection define your worth. You let the outside shape your inside. And before you know it, you're moving through someone else's life, checking boxes that don't belong to you, chasing goals you never chose, and becoming a version of yourself you wouldn't recognize if you stopped to look. But there's a better way. Not louder, just quieter, more deliberate, more yours. Every morning, you can pause, not to escape, but to define, to choose. Write one sentence that becomes your compass. Today, I will be, not that I will do it, but I will be strong, honest, calm, focused, stoic. You don't need 10 affirmations. You need one identity, one clear intention, one voice inside that's louder than the noise out there. Because once you decide who you are, you begin to act in line with that decision. You create momentum not by reacting to life, but by leading it. This is not about ego, it's about alignment. When your actions match your values, peace follows. When your identity drives your behavior, you don't need motivation. You move with integrity. You speak with clarity. You lead with presence. And that presence, unshakable and inwardly anchored, is what makes you powerful in a world built on distraction. So the question is not what will happen today. The question is, who will you be when it does? Will you be the one who stays calm when others panic? Will you be the one who listens when others shout? Will you be the one who chooses clarity over chaos, responsibility over blame, purpose over popularity? These are not traits you're born with. They are choices, practiced, repeated, built every morning like armor. This is why your mornings matter more than you think, because the identity you choose at dawn becomes the standard you hold yourself to until dusk. If you begin grounded, you stay grounded. If you begin lost, you keep drifting. But when you begin anchored, decisive in who you are. You stop searching for approval. You stop chasing control. You stop reacting. You lead. That's Stoicism in action. Not as a theory, but as a way of waking, walking, and working. The world will still be noisy. It will still try to define you. But now it has to get through your decision first. That one silent, sovereign choice you made before the world got loud. You chose who to be. And because of that, you are no longer at the mercy of circumstance. You are not a leaf in the wind. You are the wind. So tomorrow, before your feet touch the floor, pause. Don't scroll. Don't rush. Don't let the world in before you've looked inward. Ask yourself, not what you want to achieve, but who you want to become. Answer honestly. And then move through your day as if it were already true. Because once you decide who you are, the day no longer defines you. You define it. 3. Clarity in the morning beats hustle in the afternoon. You can run all day and end up nowhere if you start in the wrong direction. That's not failure, that's a misalignment. You were busy, yes, you were moving, sure, but without clarity you were chasing motion, not meaning. In the world we live in, being busy is celebrated, but the Stoics don't celebrate motion. He values direction. He wakes not to be faster, but to be focused, not to respond, but to decide. Clarity is not a gift. It's a decision. It begins with one question. What truly matters today? Not what's urgent, not what's loud, but what's worth it. This question is quiet. It requires space. You can't hear it while scrolling. You can't hear it while rushing. You hear it only in the stillness of morning before the day starts talking over your thoughts. That's why the morning matters so much. Because it's the last place in the day that belongs to you alone. When you begin with clarity, you don't need to hustle to feel productive. You're not running to catch up. You're walking with intention. The Stoics teach that it's not outcomes we control, it's preparation. Clarity is preparation, and preparation is power. Without it, you're pulled in every direction. With it, you lead. Every action becomes lighter, more precise, and more aligned with who you said you'd be. The mistake many people make is equating movement with progress. They think doing more means achieving more. But doing more of the wrong thing only takes you further from what you really need. The Stoic mindset flips that. It asks first, is this essential? If not, eliminate it. If yes, prioritize. That's the mindset you train every morning. Not once a year, not in a crisis, but daily. In quiet, before the noise begins. The real challenge isn't deciding what to do, it's facing what to let go. Most days, the work that matters most isn't complicated. It's just uncomfortable. It's that one conversation, that one decision, that one commitment you keep postponing. Clarity doesn't make it easier, it makes it unavoidable. When you see what must be done, you either step toward it or keep lying to yourself. There's no in-between. That's why clarity is a form of courage. It strips away excuses, it exposes distractions, and it demands that you lead from within, not from reaction. But that strength doesn't show up by accident. It's built each morning in the space where you decide. Not what you feel like doing, but what you were made to do. And yes, the world will try to interrupt. It will give you headlines, alarms, demands, and reasons to doubt yourself before breakfast. But if you've anchored your intention before the noise, you stay unmoved. That's the Stoic way. Not emotionless, but emotionally drained. Not rigid, but rooted. Not perfect, but prepared. Each morning ask, what are the 3 things I must move forward with today? Not 10, not everything. 3. Write them down. Speak them out. Visualize them completed. Let them shape the flow of your focus. Because clarity isn't mental, it's physical. When you move with it, your shoulders drop, your breathing slows, your energy channels into what matters, not what's trending. And here's the truth, no one tells you. Clarity brings peace. Not because life gets easier, but because you get simpler. You stop scattering your strength. You stop chasing what doesn't belong to you. You stop apologizing for needing space. Instead, you create it. Every morning, before the emails, before the meetings, before the world hijacks your focus, you reclaim it. You don't need more hustle. You need more alignment. You don't need more noise. You need more stillness. You don't need more effort. You need a better direction. And that direction starts not with what's next, but with what's right. And what's right reveals itself only when you are quiet enough to hear it. So, tomorrow, when the world starts screaming for your attention, return to that one question. what truly matters today. Then move with it. Let it guide you, protect you, and define your effort. Because when you begin with clarity, you don't chase the day. The day follows you. 4. Start with one win. Build from there. Don't think about mastering your life. Just master the moment when the alarm goes off and you don't hit snooze. That's where everything begins. Not with some massive transformation, not with a perfect morning routine, not with a motivational breakthrough. It starts with one small decision, a silent win that no one sees but you. And in that decision, you're not proving anything to the world. You're rebuilding something far more important. You're rebuilding trust with yourself. Because every time you break a promise to yourself, even a small one, you feel it. Maybe not in words, but in weight. And that weight adds up. It turns into hesitation, into doubt, into quiet shame you carry through the rest of the day. But when you keep one promise, even something simple, even something small, it changes everything. It tells your mind, I follow through. It tells your emotions, I'm in control. It tells your identity, I can trust you again. That's why the first win of your morning matters more than you think. It's not about the action itself. It's about the message underneath. When you rise on time, make the bed, drink that first glass of water, and take that first cold shower, you're doing more than checking off a task. You're saying to yourself, I'm back. I'm not running anymore. I'm not negotiating with weakness today. And the impact isn't just emotional, it's chemical. Your brain releases dopamine, not from pleasure, but from progress. That neurochemical signal builds momentum, and momentum builds confidence. Now imagine this. Someone wakes up at 6:30 a.m. His alarm goes off. He doesn't want to get up. It's warm under the blanket. The room is cold. He's tired. His body whispers, 5 more minutes. But he sits up anyway. Feet on the floor. No phone, no excuses. He walks to the bathroom, splashes water on his face, and breathes deeply. It's not glamorous, but it's real. And it's his win. Before the world asks anything from him, he's already shown up for himself. From that moment, his entire energy shifts. Because he didn't wait to feel ready. He didn't need permission. He acted. And from action, clarity came. Focus followed. He starts the day knowing he's not the kind of man who makes excuses. He's the kind who moves. And that identity colors the rest of the morning. He works with a sharper focus. He handles challenges with less drama. Not because the day is easier, but because he's already strong enough for it. That's the difference one win can make. It's not a productivity trick. It's a psychological reset. A declaration to your own subconscious that today will not be like yesterday. Once you make that statement, once you build that emotional proof, the next task becomes lighter. The resistance fades. Because discipline isn't about being tough. It's about being consistent. Consistency doesn't start with 10 habits. It starts with 1. Stoic philosophy teaches that character is built in action, not in thought. And the smallest action, done with integrity, is more powerful than the grandest intention left undone. So don't wait to feel inspired. Don't wait for the perfect morning. Choose the first win you can control and do it like it matters. Because it does. And that win doesn't need to be dramatic. It doesn't need to impress anyone. But it needs to be real. Real effort, real commitment, real follow-through. That's where resilience is built. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows of early morning, where no one claps and no one watches. Except you, and that's enough. You don't need to conquer everything today. You don't need to rewrite your life before breakfast. You just need to stop breaking promises to yourself. You need to stop being the person who says tomorrow when your soul is asking for now. One small act, one silent victory. That's how it begins. And over time, those wins stack. They become patterns, and patterns become identity. Until one day, you no longer need to convince yourself, because it's just who you are now. You're the kind of person who shows up, who finishes, who decides once and follows through without second guessing. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. So tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off, don't argue, don't hesitate, don't negotiate with weakness. Rise. In the first minute, let that be your win. From there, build your momentum, build your morning, build your day. And in doing that, quietly, faithfully, relentlessly, you begin to build your life. 5. Silence is a superpower. Use it before sunrise. Before the world wakes, there's a moment that doesn't belong to noise, schedules to anyone else. That moment belongs to you, and it speaks in silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of clarity. Before sunrise, when everything is still, something rare happens. You stop performing, you stop reacting, you return to yourself. No notifications, no demands, no roles to play, just presence. And in that space, you don't just find peace, you find direction. Because the truth is, most people don't know what they truly want. Not because they're lazy, but because they've never made space to hear themselves think. Their mornings are filled with input before the intention. Screens before breath, noise before presence. Without silence, there is no awareness. Without awareness, there is no alignment. When you're out of alignment, you move fast but go nowhere. You act, but not with purpose. You speak, but not from truth. You hustle, but without peace. Silence resets all of that. It brings your attention back to the only place that matters, the present moment. Not what happened yesterday, not what might happen today, but who are you right now? That presence is your anchor, and from it clarity rises, not forced, not logical, but felt. In stillness, your mind doesn't go blank. It gets honest. It stops defending, distracting, and justifying. It just is. And that's enough. Stoic philosophy wasn't built on endless input. It was built on inner stillness. Men like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius didn't need more noise to find wisdom. They needed less. They withdrew not to escape the world, but to face it without distortion. The silence wasn't a retreat. It was preparation. When you can sit with yourself without reaching for escape, you start to hear the deeper voice within. The one that knows. The one that remembers. The one that doesn't rush. And that voice isn't dramatic. It won't beg for your attention. It waits, patient, soft. But if you ignore it too long, it fades. And when it fades, you forget what you're doing all of this for. You forget who you were before the noise told you what to become. That's why silence in the morning isn't optional. It's essential, not for peace alone, but for power. Because the most powerful people you've met don't yell. They don't hurry. They don't try to be heard. They move from presence. And presence is born from silence. Use that silence, not just to rest, but to realign. To ask the hard questions without flinching. Who are you becoming? What are you still running from? What are you pretending not to feel? These aren't morning checklist items, they're inner compass checks. You don't answer them with words, you answer them with honesty, with stillness, with breath. And the answers don't always come quickly, but the act of listening shapes you. It's in that listening that resilience grows. You realize you don't need a perfect plan, you just need inner permission to move. You don't need louder motivation, you need deeper clarity. And that comes not from doing more, but from being still long enough to hear what's true. The Stoics knew this, not in theory, but in practice. They trained the mind to be quiet so the soul could lead. That's what you build before sunrise. Not just a routine, but a way of seeing, of being, of leading your life from within, instead of following noise from without. And once you've tasted that kind of silence, the rest of the day changes. Not because the world gets easier, but because your mind gets quieter. You no longer absorb every chaos. You choose your response. You no longer fear uncertainty. You sit with it. You no longer chase validation. You return to your values, not in a rush, but rooted. So don't underestimate the power of 5 minutes. Not 5 minutes of content, not 5 minutes of productivity, 5 minutes of sacred stillness. Eyes open or closed, in a chair, on the floor, in the shower, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're there, fully. No pretending, no avoiding, no editing. Just you and the silence that reminds you of who you are when nothing is demanded of you. That's where strength begins. Not in action, but in awareness. Not in reaction, but in reflection. And not after sunrise, but before it. Because if you wait until the world gets loud to find your center, you'll never find it. But if you claim it early, the noise won't shake it. That's your superpower. Use it. Not to escape, but to return. Not to hide, but to lead. Not to disappear, but to remember what matters. And in remembering, you reclaim your morning. And in reclaiming your morning, you reclaim your mind. 6. Discipline in the morning creates freedom in the evening. Discipline isn't about restriction. It's about liberation. Not from others, but from yourself. From the version of you that negotiates with time, delays hard things, and always promises to start tomorrow. When you choose discipline in the morning, you're not punishing yourself. You're protecting yourself from regret, from stress, from the quiet disappointment that shows up when you realize the day is over and you've done everything except the one thing that actually mattered. And this is where most people get it wrong. They believe freedom means doing what you want, whenever you want. But real freedom is not the absence of structure. It's the result of structure. Freedom is not permission. It's peace. And that peace doesn't show up after a day of drifting. It shows up after a morning of focus. A morning where you met the day before it chased you. Where you looked at your time, your energy, your goals, and said, I'm not wasting this again. Stoic philosophy doesn't praise chaos. It values mastery, especially self-mastery. The Stoics weren't obsessed with controlling the outside world. They trained themselves to be immovable inside it. And that training didn't start on the battlefield. It started at dawn, in the quiet hours when no one was watching. When the easy path was sleep, distraction, indulgence. But they chose clarity, routine, intention. Not because they had to, but because they knew what was at stake. The discipline of your morning determines the freedom of your night. If you show up early for yourself, you don't have to apologize later for where the day went. You don't have to scramble to fix what wasn't started. You don't have to cancel your evening peace just to catch up on tasks you ignored out of comfort. The work was done when it mattered most, before the demands piled up, before the mind got pulled in 100 directions, and before excuses had time to gather strength. And no, discipline doesn't mean perfection. It means ownership. It means you do what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. Because the purpose of discipline isn't to create a rigid life, it's to build a strong one. A life where your word to yourself actually means something. A life where the hardest parts of the day are behind you before most people have even started. A life where by evening, you can sit with calm. Not because everything went your way, but because you didn't go against yourself. When the morning begins with a disciplined act, a cold shower, a focused task, a written plan, you shift your identity. You're no longer the person waiting for the right mood. You're the person who creates it. And that identity creates momentum. You begin to trust yourself again. You begin to look forward to showing up, not because it's easy, but because it's who you've become. And the effect of that self-trust is massive. It bleeds into your conversations, your focus, and our decisions. You say no to distractions faster. You recover from setbacks with more clarity. You stop chasing short-term dopamine and start building long-term direction. Not because you've become a machine, but because you've become consistent. And in a world that rewards noise, the consistent are the ones who lead. This consistency must begin in the morning, not midday, not when things calm down. Because by then, your attention is already diluted, your strength is already spent, your mind is already tangled in other people's priorities. That's why the morning must be guarded. It's the last place in your day where you own the full rhythm of your time. If you waste that, you hand your day to randomness. But if you claim it, you get to lead your hours, not chase them. So make that choice. Rise early, not to prove anything, but protect everything. Eat well, not for discipline's sake, but for your own clarity. Move your body, not to fit a mold, but to meet your responsibilities with strength. Plan your priorities, not to impress the world, but to avoid betraying what matters most to you. These acts don't look impressive on the surface, but beneath them lies your real freedom. The freedom to finish the day with dignity. You don't need to do it all. You just need to do what matters, and do it first, before emails, before texts, before the opinions of the world start shaping your direction. That's the moment that makes the difference. Not the evening scramble, but the early commitment. The kind that's silent, the kind that doesn't post, the kind that doesn't need praise, the kind that speaks in results, not in promises. So the next time you think discipline is heavy, remember what's heavier. Regret. Remember what's louder, the voice in your head when the sun sets and the work still isn't done. And remember what's more painful, not being tired from the effort, but being restless from avoidance. That's the price of undisciplined mornings. But the reward for choosing otherwise, it's quiet, it's strong, and it feels like peace. Discipline is not a cage, it's the gateway to your evening freedom. Guard the morning, and the night will take care of itself. 7. Gratitude rewires your mind for positivity. A grateful mind in the morning is a stormproof mind for the rest of the day. Life won't always arrive gently. There will be delays, conflicts, and noise. But when your day begins not in scarcity, not in rush, but in deep appreciation for what you already have, you carry a kind of quiet strength that nothing outside can shake. Gratitude isn't soft. It's solid. It sharpens your focus. It shields your energy. It shapes your perception, and perception shapes your reality. You don't need a perfect life to practice gratitude. You need presence. You need to look at your morning, not through the lens of what's missing, but through the clarity of what's already enough. The warmth of a cup in your hands, the breath in your lungs, the ability to move, to choose, to reset. These aren't cliches, they're anchors. Without them, your mind drifts into a complaint by default. But with them, your mind holds fast, even when life doesn't cooperate. There was a time when I woke up each day feeling behind. I didn't even know why. I just opened my eyes and felt the weight, like I owed something to time, like I wasn't enough yet. The to-do list started writing itself before I left the bed. And in that energy, I moved through the world looking for what was wrong, what wasn't done, what wasn't working. I thought I needed more structure, more hustle, more systems. But what I really needed was perspective. So I did something embarrassingly simple. I left a notebook with my toothbrush, and every morning, before checking my phone and before opening my calendar, I wrote down 3 things I was grateful for. No filters, no edits, just real, quiet appreciation. Some days it was big, like a breakthrough I had the day before. Some days it was small, like the way sunlight hit the floor, and something started shifting. My energy softened, my mind cleared. The pressure didn't go away, but the panic did. Gratitude gave me room to breathe. It didn't erase the challenges. It gave me strength to meet them. When you start your day from fullness, you stop chasing things to fill you. You stop seeing every delay as a disaster. You stop treating small problems like personal attacks. You start leading yourself with calm, and that calm is contagious. Stoic philosophy speaks to this in a quiet but powerful way. It reminds us that the greatest wealth is the ability to be content with little. Not in a passive sense, but in an active decision to focus on what you can control. Your response, your attention, your awareness. When Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that death could come today, it wasn't to scare him. It was to awaken gratitude for the breath, for the chance, for the moment. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about ignoring pain or pretending everything's fine. It's about choosing not to let bitterness run your day before it even begins. It's about standing still and telling yourself, there is good here, and I can see it. Even if it's small, especially because it's small. Gratitude doesn't mean you're blind to what's wrong. It means you're no longer blind to what's right. And science backs it. Gratitude activates neural pathways that reinforce optimism, discipline, and emotional resilience. You begin to notice different things. You begin to speak differently. You begin to walk into your day not with a void to be filled, but with a sense of direction, purpose, and groundedness. Your mind is no longer scanning for danger. It's scanning for opportunities. Your subconscious no longer whispers not enough. It begins to say, you have what you need to do something with it. And that, more than anything, builds emotional strength. Because negativity is heavy, and we carry too much of it without knowing. But gratitude helps you drop what doesn't belong to you. The comparison, the guilt, the scarcity. And once you let that go, your actions come from a place of power, not pressure. A place of focus, not fear. That's what rewires your mind. Not magic, just the simple, stubborn habit of noticing what's good. So tomorrow morning, before the noise comes, give yourself that space. You don't need to write a page. You don't need to be poetic. Just 3 real things. 3 quiet truths. 3 small reasons to say I'm still here, and that matters. Then take that energy, that mindset, and walk it into your day. And when the world pushes back, when the day doesn't go to plan, you'll respond not from panic, but from power. Not from lack, but from clarity. Gratitude doesn't just make you feel better, it makes you stronger. And the strength that comes from within doesn't fade when things get hard. It gets sharper, more precise, more focused. Gratitude is not the reward, it's the foundation. Build it before the world tests it, and it will carry you through every storm. 8. You don't need a 5 a.m. club. You just need intention. The time you wake up isn't what changes your life. The intention behind it does. You don't need to be in some elite 5 a.m. club to win your morning. You just need a reason strong enough to pull you out of bed with purpose. Because discipline without direction is just exhaustion. Waking early without clarity becomes just another form of pressure, a hollow ritual that looks impressive but feels empty. You're not here to mimic someone else's schedule. You're here to lead your own life. There's a common belief that waking up before the sun somehow guarantees success. But success isn't about what time you rise. It's about who you are when you rise. If you get up at 7 a.m. and move with clarity, presence, and purpose, you're already ahead of the person who got up at 4 a.m. just to check their email and scroll through distractions. Early is only powerful if it's paired with intention. And intention, unlike time, can't be faked. The Stoics didn't measure worth in hours. They measured it in direction. What matters most is not the hour you start, but whether the first moments of your day are yours. Whether you wake up reactive or deliberate. Whether you open your eyes already chasing someone else's agenda or standing firm in your own. That is the quiet power of intention. It simplifies everything. It strips away comparison. It asks one question and makes you answer it honestly. Why are you up? And if you don't have that answer, it doesn't matter what time it is. You'll drift. You'll fill your morning with noise that feels productive but means nothing. You'll check the boxes without moving forward. But if your morning starts with intention, even at 8 a.m., you'll notice how everything aligns. Your mind is clearer. Your choices are sharper. Your pace is calmer. Because you're not rushing, you're returning. Not to a schedule, for a reason. And that reason doesn't need to be grand. It just needs to be real. Maybe it's to rebuild a body that's been neglected. Maybe it's to write something honest before the world interrupts. Maybe it's to reflect, to breathe, to reconnect with the person you said you would become. That reason becomes your compass. It gives weight to your habits. It gives meaning to your time. And it frees you from needing to prove anything to anyone. There's a kind of silent courage in rejecting the hype, in not chasing every trend, in saying, I don't need to be the earliest, I just need to be the clearest. That's stoic. That's strength. That's the difference between discipline and performance. One grounds you, the other drains you, because if you're waking up early just to fit someone else's mold, you're already behind, not in the schedule, but in the soul. So, instead of copying a morning routine, create one that fits your values, your rhythm, your reality. Anchor it in reflection, protect it with boundaries, let it serve your vision, not your ego. Remind yourself that the goal isn't to be early, it's to be intentional. That's what rewires your mind. That's what transforms mornings from mechanical to meaningful. And when the world glorifies the grind, you'll be the one who moves differently, who rises when ready, who acts with clarity, not compulsion. Because you know what matters most isn't being first, it's being fully there, present, grounded, awake not just in body but in mind. That presence isn't built by alarm clocks. It's built by decisions. And the most powerful decision you can make each morning is why you're rising, not when. So tomorrow, whether it's 5 a.m. or 7:30, wake up for the right reason. Not because the internet told you to, because you did. Because you've decided what kind of life you want, and you've stopped waiting for someone else to give it to you. Intention beats routine, purpose beats pressure, and clarity will always beat the clock. You don't need a 5 a.m. badge. You need a reason to rise that matters to you. That's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything. The morning is not just the beginning of your day. It's the beginning of who you choose to become. Every action taken in those quiet hours sets the tone for everything that follows. You don't need perfection. You need presence. You don't need a long checklist. You need clarity. From your first breath to your first decision, you are already shaping your momentum, identity, and peace of mind. Let's bring it all together. Your morning mood becomes your daily momentum. Decide who you want to be before the world assigns you a role. Don't trade clarity for busyness. Start with one small win and build from there. Protect silence. It's where truth lives. Let discipline shape your freedom. Let gratitude rewire your mind for strength, not just softness. And above all, remember, intention is what matters, not the hour on the clock. Stoic philosophy isn't built on rigid routines or unreachable ideals. It's built on daily choices, honest, deliberate, human. You have the power to reclaim your mornings, not by copying what others do, but by committing to what matters to you. A powerful morning doesn't belong to the elite. It belongs to those who decide each day to show up with purpose. So tomorrow, take one practice, just one. A moment of silence, a simple list, a word of gratitude. Let it be your anchor, then repeat it. Each day, let it shape your mindset, your actions, and your life. If this journey speaks to you, I invite you to share your own morning ritual in the comments. What helps you stay focused? What small habit has changed your days? Let's grow through shared intention together. Because when you win the morning, you begin to win something far greater, yourself.